63. Crossroads of Choice. There existed a sacred pattern in my life, a rhythm of exhaustion and elation, where the darkest moments beckoned the brightest miracles. This was no exception. Within weeks of being on the farm, we serendipitously, miraculously stumbled upon Esther Marie's work and home address in Stellenbosch. As I shared my news with a friend, her enthusiastic response pierced the armor I'd built around my heart. "Reach out to Gurik and Esther Marie," she encouraged, her words reopening old wounds and forcing me to confront the vulnerability I'd been trying to avoid. As my school friend, who had known me since high school, she was astonished by the transformation she saw in me. She marveled at the happiness, joy, and love that Keith and I shared, and she believed that this new chapter in my life would be a game changer for my children. My heart swelled with a desire to reconnect with Gurik and Esther Marie, to introduce them to the mother I'd become, free, unshackled, and overflowing with love. I craved a bond that was raw, honest, and unbridled. As we explored reconciling with Gurik and Esther Marie, my friend emphasized the strong bond Esther Marie and I once shared. We had often stayed at her Cape Town home during netball tournaments, cheering together for our daughters. To rekindle this connection, we devised a plan. She'd call Gurik in Riebeek West and visit Esther Marie at her prestigious wine estate workplace. I agreed, ecstatically, hoping and praying that this would be the turning point. Fresh from our coffee in Durbanville, she was keen to make progress. Without hesitation, she decided to call Gurik on the spot. We returned to her car, where I began recording as she dialed his number. 41 minutes later, my hopes were crushed. Gurik, oblivious to my presence, delivered a devastating verdict. No reconciliation. His words left no room for doubt. Witnessing this conversation, I was transfixed. My friend's attempts to convey my anguish met cold responses. Gurik refused to acknowledge his role, unwilling to listen. His boasts of transformative progress in Riebeek West implicated me. I'd stifled his growth, bringing drama into his life. The cutting remark, "I couldn't help it that for 24 years she swallowed her tongue," seared itself into memory. Gurik's refusal to confront inner shadows, projecting blame onto me, echoed past trauma. Faces flashed in my mind. Henny, Mom Doreen. My sacred vow resurfaced. Never again would I tolerate disrespect. Their conversation ended abruptly, devolving into terseness. My heart shuddered at the finality. Yet, amidst devastation, an odd sense of liberation emerged. Once again, I realized I had a choice to make. It would never be about what happened to me, but about what I did with what happened to me. Through my divorce, I had unearthed my greatest treasure, a life of freedom and joy. My inner sacred promise to my children was to remain unshackled, shining bright, and living proof that triumph over trauma was possible. This vow, a beacon of unconditional self-love, stood independent of their choices, whether they drew near or created distance. My radiance, a testament to my resilience, would illuminate regardless, empowering them to forge their own paths to freedom. The next day, my friend made a surprise visit to Esther Marie at her workplace. Her verdict changed everything. A reconciliation between Esther Marie and me was within reach. A glimmer of possibility flickered to life. One shattered relationship might yet be redeemed. The unknown beckoned, and I stood poised.